Anthony, I got a new motto today, and I'm saying it in a different tempo.
What are you saying?
You'll find out right after this.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Great to see you all today. Anthony Milcurie, my friend. How are you, sir?
How are you, my friend? I love your background. That you really do look like you're in the location that your background says you're in.
I know. It's pretty cool right there. And this is the new Motto Hotel in Philadelphia. We're going to be bringing on Phil Cordell in just a minute. And you guys know him. He's a friend of ours over at Hilton, has been around for a long time, but I don't want to insult him by saying he's been around too much. And these days, he's the global head of lifestyle brands. Last time he was on the show, Anthony, he was here rolling out all of their plans to keep us safe in hotels with their cleaning programs and all of that kind of stuff. But now he's back for a more exciting kind of experience.
That's great. Well, why not insult him by how long he's been in business? You insulted our friend yesterday. Why not?
Because I learned my lesson yesterday, and I'm not making that mistake again. Fool me once, I get it. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. And I want to apologize to everybody out there. I wasn't entirely truthful with everybody yesterday. When I said I was going to get a haircut, I never made it to get a haircut. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay, Glenn, let's talk about things people care about.
All right. So as I was saying, Motto, Tempo, two of the newest brands from Hilton. We're going to be learning a little bit about them, and also Canopy Hotel. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Phil Cordell, global head of lifestyle brands with Hilton. Phil, great to see you again, my friend.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys today.
Awesome.
It's a good day for a good day, right?
I like your shirt. You look like a guy that runs a lifestyle brand, like kind of relaxed. Remember when the whole lifestyle brand came into play, and like everybody was like, if you're not a lifestyle general manager, like you've never been a general manager before. I remember going in for interviews early in my career, and people was like, well, you've never done a lifestyle hotel. I was like, well, somebody explain to me what a lifestyle is, because I got some really cool wardrobe. I can real cool shirts. I can go around and call people, yo, what's up? I can do all that stuff. So in the beginning, it was like you needed to walk around a certain way, or you didn't get a job as a lifestyle person, right?
You had to be hip and cool, right?
I just wore all black clothes and stared at people and wouldn't interact with them.
No, that's called the stalker, Glenn.
Yeah.
See? And I've had a journey, right? Because I started out in focus service world, right? Which would be polo shirt world. Like I said, focus service world, and then they kind of become a lifestyle person.
When you started focus service, was Hampton the first job that you had, or was there something
with Hilton? My first job with Hilton was a bellman in one of their hotels, and kind of grew up with front desk and general manager, a bunch of multi-unit operations, all that stuff. And that was when the kind of the Holiday Inn roots, the promised roots of Hilton.
Right.
And kind of grew up in operations there, and then kind of came over to the focus service side when Promise at that time was starting this new Hampton thing. So, that was my first GM opportunity, Hampton #2 back. Oh my gosh, I've been in the industry 38 years.
Which is absolutely incredible. But Phil, one of the things that we talk about here is the disconnect between people who are at the property level and then getting up to the executive level. And I want to talk about the brands and stuff like that. But it's so important for us to say, when did you become aware that there was more in the hospitality industry besides that general manager position? And how did you manage to make the change, in your career, in your mindset, to get past that and finally achieve all the stuff that you've done subsequently to that?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, again, I was a bellman, front desk, general manager, kind of went through food and beverage quickly and all that kind of stuff. So, for a long time, I think I was on property, and I had the perception, all those people in corporate, they're the people who say, oh, we're here to help you. What can we do? Right. And they really didn't have an understanding of what was up. So, or at least from my lens, they did. Right. So I kind of made a commitment at that point. And I guess it was with Hampton when I first started to kind of go transition from property to corporate level. And I committed to myself, I was never going to be one of those people that was out of touch with what was happening in the hotels, right? It was going to take a conscious effort to stay connected, because, I think that happens to many of us as leaders, regardless of the discipline that we work with, right? Is sometimes we kind of lose track of what really happens. Not good, especially in this business, because things change so quickly, right? Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's amazing to me that you've been able to stay with one company for so long. What's the secret to being able to negotiate all of the politics in your journey upward throughout the organization?
Alcohol and yoga. No, no. I mean, it sounds really simple, but I think it's just kind of trying to remain relevant. Sometimes we within the industry look only within our industry and say, this is it. This is the universe we have to learn from. This is how it's always been done. So maybe this is how it always has to be. And so I've always been, I think we've talked about this before. Early in my career, I guess in high school, I took this kind of career aptitude test that kind of indicated what I should be. And mine came back to say I should be a funeral director, a minister, or a hotel manager, right? How weird. Right. But all those things have related to working with people, right? So I've always kind of challenged myself to kind of look to the future and say, what else do we need to know? So I mean, I think as long as we keep the right mindset, it's easy to grow and mature and just don't get stale, right? We can't get stale.
So talking about lifestyle brands, what are the brands under the lifestyle banner at Hilton, and how does that change from the other brands? Like, what's the big difference between a lifestyle brand and a regular brand? Because that's something I've been trying to understand for a long time. Because again, people put you in that pigeonhole you and say, well, you haven't run a lifestyle hotel. So I never really understood what's the difference, because I know the P&L, as far as I'm concerned, either you're making money or you're not making money.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think when lifestyle first started, I mean, there's some iconic brands that kind of led the way. I mean, it was always independence, and several players got really big into the space, kind of iconic brands. And I think at one point, to you and Glenn's point earlier, it was about hip and cool and dark lighting and specific kind of fabrics and colors, and it was kind of a vibe that was created that made you hip and cool. Cool kids.
When you went down the Paramount hallway, remember the Paramount hallways? You'd have to go like this to find your way through. It was so dark.
Yeah. So I think for a long time there was a mystique around it. I'm not sure I still latch 100% onto the word lifestyle, because in some ways I think every hotel brand, every hotel should kind of think about it from the perspective of what's the mindset of what does lifestyle mean, right? So
sure. Because if you go like the Hampton Inn, or you go to a limited service brand and you see a volleyball team, like, again, I travel with my kid for volleyball. It's like, that's a lifestyle, that they're volleyball kids. So they're in that hotel and that fits their lifestyle. For breakfast, easy parking, you can meet in the lobby. So that, to me, that's why I never really got that whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's a mindset that hopefully all of us in the industry are starting to embrace. What are we doing to kind of meet the expectations of our guests? It doesn't have to be gooey and messy. I think in the lifestyle space for Hilton, I kind of think about it as although each of the brands are different, I'm sure we'll talk about this here in a few minutes.
Yep.
It's a way to provide something that's a bit unexpected, but still within a framework that gives me some confidence that there's going to be some essentials in place that I can kind of count on, right? So it's certainly not cookie cutter, but it's a way to kind of create freedom within a framework, I think, as we think about what they look and feel like.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I like what you say about giving customers a sense of confidence about what they can expect in terms of certain amenities, but it's mostly the feeling of the place. So that way it doesn't it doesn't damage the design aesthetic. Now, yesterday we had on a friend of the show from a big competing company of yours, and they were saying one of their favorite lines over there is swim lanes, which coincidentally was my word of the year for 2018. I think it was, in the hospitality industry. So you're sure to have some parameters out there. So we're talking motto today. We're talking tempo today. We're talking canopy today. How would you describe the nuances and differences between them that make sure it's clear to the consumer?
Wow, that's a $64,000 question, right? But here's how I think about it. I think broadly, as we think about all three of the brands, math is not one of my strongest suits, but we've tried to think about kind of the 60-30-10 rule, right? 60% of what we deliver in the experience probably needs to be kind of familiar, somewhat expected, and something that people can count on. If 30% then on top of that, we can kind of add on something that's, okay, that's kind of cool, that's kind of unexpected and kind of different. And then on top of that, you layer in the 10% that's kind of the wow factor. You can kind of put all that together. And from an operational perspective, from an economic perspective, it makes sense, right? I think initially maybe hotels felt that in the 60-30-10 rule, the 10% that was the wow had to be the base. And I think when it becomes the base, that's where people get kind of, sometimes disoriented and or a bit uncomfortable. So if you think about that kind of 60-30-10 rule, I mean, one of the ways I tried to think about it very broadly, and then we can talk a minute, is, as you think about Hilton, the brand, or Hilton gets you to the city, Tempo gets you to the right location, Canopy gets you to the right neighborhood, Motto gets you to the right block within that neighborhood, all in different ways. we have all kinds of marketing lingo that we use to talk about the customers and how they're different from each. But I think part of it is the location thing we talked about, right? Motto, we kind of call that guest an urban explorer. They're willing to have a small guest room, but as a trade-off for that, they get some cool food and beverage at the hotel. And they're in an area where they can kind of be out and about and explore. So really from a price point perspective, they could skew to be more of almost a mid-scale kind of customer, mid-scale plus, but they're willing to kind of go trade-offs to be in the right spot.
So, Anthony, check this out. This is the Tempo at Rittenhouse Square that's behind me in Philadelphia. Let me put that up there, step aside.
That's a great looking motto. That hotel, guest rooms 160-ish square feet.
Right.
Very basic. But you get to the rooftop, it has a great downstairs and amazing rooftop that lets you kind of see what you want to see.
Yeah, and I think that's the guest room, correct?
There you go. We call it the step saver room, right? It's about 160 square feet, but it's everything you need, right? It's you're not spending a lot of time in your room, so you got what you need to be comfortable and kind of move around.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that lobby that we were looking at, the public spaces with the food and beverage, it looks like it's a much more higher end hotel. I've seen some of those for full scale brands in Manhattan, real upscale brands that have that same kind of look and feel. But they're able to achieve that in Rittenhouse Square, which is not an inexpensive location at probably a much lower price point. That's pretty impressive. Is that because of the size of the rooms when development costs it all turned out to be the great?
Yeah, I think kind of in a maybe not 100% correct way, but we're kind of saying to our guests, okay, the room may be small, but look, you don't want to spend a lot of time in your room anyway. Look, you go to a rooftop and you can have a cool drink, or you can go downstairs and have a cool donut or something, and at the same time kind of celebrate what makes you.
But I want go ahead, Phil.
No. I mean, I think, Glenn, to your point, I think food and beverage to varying degrees within the three lifestyle brands of Hilton and others, food and beverage really has to be in some cases more than a supporting role. It's almost kind of a starring role, right? Because that's what differentiates these brands from some that are a bit more kind of cookie cutter, in a good way, cookie cutter, right? So that's where the opportunity.
But I want to go back to, you said something that's very interesting and really comes out of your over 30-year career and working in a corporation and having a lot of fits and starts, a lot of successes, a lot of failures, because we all have them. But you said something that I don't want to just go over people's heads. The 60-30-10 rule. The biggest problem with hotels, especially independent hotels, especially hotels that don't have brands and don't have your expertise, is they take that 10% and they put it on top of their hotel and they focus on that hotel, that 10%, and they destroy their hotel because they make it bigger than it is. So if it's a wow factor, I don't know. Just say, for example, when I was in Nickelodeon, we did the slime, right? At 4 o'clock, I made sure that we slimed everybody at 4 o'clock. That wasn't everything we did. We were clean. We were service-oriented. We had good food. We hit all the X's and O's of hospitality. But at 4 o'clock, the wow factor was everybody got the bucket of slime. I had to fight for that bucket of slime, by the way, with corporate. But my point being is that was our wow. We didn't overwhelm it by every 5 minutes sliming people and trying to get away with just the Nickelodeon slime bucket. And I think that is so critically important that you focus on that wow and put it in a box.
You're exactly right. I mean, Glenn may have heard me say this before. There's a lot of kind of cliches I use to kind of guide my history in hospitality. And at its core, I think it's focus on what matters most, right? I mean, at its core, all of our hotels have to deliver some fundamental basics. And if we don't get those right, then guests don't really have a lot of forgiveness for some of the wow. But if we can get those basics right, and to your point, kind of deliver the wow in a box, but deliver it, that's where the kind of the magic of lifestyle, or the mystique of lifestyle, maybe.
So how do you handle a person that is a Hilton member and has been with you forever and is maybe the top Hilton member, and you have all these brands and they go to a brand because it's not because the brand they usually go to is not available. So they get stuck in maybe not stuck, but they get placed in a lifestyle brand because it's Hilton and they enjoy Hilton. And they're just like, I want wine and you're giving me scotch. Like, this isn't what I want. I would imagine you have to manage that very carefully.
We do. I mean, a phrase I kind of use sometimes is it's not for everyone, but not alienating to anyone, right? And I think we have to kind of embrace that these are not, I mean, the good news, bad news is they're not broad category brands with broad appeal. And there'll be some guests who stay with us that we're just not for them, right? I mean, just think about micro hotels like Motto. It's a 160 square foot room. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest opportunities that we have every day is helping guests understand what they're getting into, because they're used to staying somewhere else and they get there in a baby size room, and they're the first to say, hey, what's up here? And so we try to kind of do as much as we can education on the front end, but we just have to acknowledge we can't be for everybody, and that's okay.
Well,
that's
the whole point. Sorry, Anthony, my apologies.
And that's where, go ahead. You want to go ahead?
Sure. I was going to say, that's the whole point of you having all of these different brands, to have the whole panoply of tastes and price points and all of that, so people can make educated decisions about how they want to stay for who they feel is a human being, and you still get to capture that business.
Yeah, and Phil, what you can do is you can pull out a PowerPoint and you can show everyone, these are the different types of owners, these are these different types of budgets, this is the square footage we were dealing with. And if we would have cut down, if we would have made rooms bigger, we only have 3 elevators instead of 4 elevators. So you can go through the whole, PowerPoint of why owners own hotels in certain hotels. And really, that's the thing. When you get into all the brands, the business model is what makes the brand. It's, where do you want to be? What's the square footage? What are the restrictions? And now they come to you as the magic man and say, okay, these are my restrictions. Some are not very restrictive and some are very restrictive. What brand do you have that fits my budget, that fits my square footage, that fits my town, that fits my block? Like, this is the brand that we want. Like, this is the kind of hotel we want. Oh, let me look. Okay, that's our brand.
Right.
That's really where it comes from, right? It's not because you want to have 30,000 different brands. It's because of the business model.
Yes, it's a business model that has to kind of meet a customer expectation too. As we think about 18 brands within Hilton, all kind of grown organically, it's a fine line sometimes between kind of developing something that meets both the needs of owners and customers, right? Sometimes aligned, sometimes not aligned. But if you can make that happen in the right way, then that's where the good stuff happens.
And let me bring up that question from Colleen again. Do you think new builds will have more of the smaller rooms? That basically is what Anthony is talking about. And your company, as well as others, have really focused on more of that micro room phenomenon, because it does meet the needs of a specific group of customers. A lot of times younger people or people that have that kind of same spirit. At the same time, really changes the development costs for the owners and operators. And that sometimes in an urban location could mean the difference between a successful hotel that can move forward and one that gets scrapped before construction starts, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, within our lifestyle category today, we also have 3 brands that appeal to be kind of different. So Motto is probably the most affordable from a price point perspective. And again, it's about trade-offs, big room, but smaller room, but bespoke and unique food and beverage. Right. You kind of step up to Tempo. Tempo we just launched in January of last year, right before pandemic, right? So we had great success initially. That some of that development interest took a brief pause, not a stop, brief pause, and we'll actually move ahead in opening our first Tempo next year in New York. Anthony, I think we'll talk about that in a minute, so hopefully you'll be familiar with. So Tempo is kind of just designed to be kind of prototypically non-prototypical. It's almost like an elevated select service hotel, right? So food and beverage still plays a role in kind of an unexpected way, but it's still kind of secondary and it's kind of more approachable. Then you step up to Canopy, which is upper upscale, right? Which is a different kind of experience. So, price point will help guide some owners from development cost perspective and guests to one of the 3, and kind of the overall experience kind of dovetails into that.
Yeah, and how do you deal with? I'm going to put you on the spot. You have tap dance a little bit on this question. you come to this show because we asked you the hard question. You take, say, 6 brands, and you're all in New York. And New York is very, very atypical. Okay, because you can get for your 160 foot room the same price you can get for your 300 square foot room on the same night. How do you deal with that?
That's a good one, right? Because to your point, in a market like that, all the rooms are going to be relatively small and compact, right? So how do you kind of elevate and differentiate? To me, I think it's how do you kind of dress up the room a little bit differently? I mean, again, we'll open our first Motto in New York a little bit later this year. We'll open the Tempo next year. Room size isn't incredibly different, but the configuration of how the room is designed is very different, as is the finish of the room. And then, so I think that's where the nuance is. The service, the food and beverage, those things have to kind of do some of the heavy lifting.
And being a revenue manager in New York for any brand must be difficult because you're saying, if you're an upper scale, you're like, hey, why are they close to me in rate? That's not fair. So that's we won't get into the mind-boggling revenue management.
It can get really gooey, right? I mean, that's where we got to kind of think about how do our customers think about those decisions too, right? Because my gosh, they have so many things, so many choices to make, right? It's
yeah.
The one thing today in hotels, there's more choices than ever.
For sure.
Yep. And the good news is in New York, the rooms are so small anyway, no one will even know it's a micro hotel room.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So on to the Tempo. So Anthony, turns out that the Tempo that's being built right now is the very same place as the DoubleTree in Times Square.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, I can't believe I had it. We didn't really know what it was going to be. Phil just told me.
So Phil, you can give me, like, I solved a lot of problems in the hotel business, right? Like we all do. I can't solve this problem. I took over that hotel. I was the night manager, then director of front office operations when it was brand new. The day it opened, right? I was there.
Yeah.
It was.
So what was the brand?
It was the Embassy Suites. It was the Embassy Suites in Times Square. Right. Drew Schlesinger was the general manager. I'm sure you know that name.
Yeah.
And so it was my first job, and I was very, very happy to be there. Matter of fact, I just came out of the military, and he said, "Just show up. You'll be the night manager." That was literally the interview after I pestered him every single day for like a year from Honduras. But anyway, that's a long story. And I show up in a brand new suit on a construction site, and he just looked at me, like literally looked at me, and he walked away. He's like, "What a moron." So I learned my lesson. Next day I came and changed. But my point being is beautiful hotel, big rooms. It's not that old. It's 1990. It was built in 1990. It's not that old. Or probably 87, 88 when it was being built. How do you justify the expense of taking down a 55-room floor hotel in Times Square? First of all, what I love about New York is you're taking down basically a skyscraper and nobody even knows it. Like that's what's amazing about New York. You're taking it down and it's so quiet and it's so like compact and it's just coming down bolt by bolt by bolt. How do you justify the expense of taking it down and then rebuilding it?
And first of all, let me say disclaimer: this is the developer that has to deal with that.
No, I understand, but
the audience.
We live in Mackland. I know how this stuff works.
But but we have a lot of people.
I would imagine this has come across Phil's, office somewhere.
Has it come across his desk? Yes.
It has. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you're right, Anthony. It's a great spot for a hotel. What this particular owner developer's done is TSX Entertainment. So they basically have reconfigured the entire podium, and the theater that was there, they actually jacked up, moved, relocated. It was a huge infrastructure mess that they went through there. So like floors 1 through 11 of the hotel will now be food and beverage, retail, kind of experiential stuff. So, and then on top of that podium is actually where 630 Tempo keys will sit. So to me, the economics is how do they energize that base, right? So it's not just the lobby as it was with an Embassy where you serve breakfast or whatever. How do you completely reconfigure all that space to generate income and then use the hotel as kind of
to be honest with you, they couldn't have screwed that up anymore when they built it, because the lobby is like, you have this beautiful retail space literally on the corner of the world on 47th and Times Square, right? And you basically, you have to go in to an empty lobby, go to the lobby, okay, which is on
like 8th floor or something.
The 7th or 8th floor, this big lobby that's way too big, and then go to another floor for food and beverage, which the restaurant was never successful. It was actually, so I understand it, because it was, when they first built it, it was built wrong. But back in the day, it was probably, we didn't know any better, but so I can understand, but it was just fascinating. I was in Times Square and I turned around and go, oh, that's where.
Yeah.
Look it down, Glenn.
Yeah, no. So economically, and again, I develop it, but by taking it from an Embassy or all suite to a Tempo, right, you can get a higher key count built on that podium of cool stuff. I mean, it's going to have it. One of the principals who's involved in ownership there is a former executive with Spotify. And so they're really building it. It's going to have like a hydraulic stage that floats out over Times Square for concerts and stuff. I mean, it's going to be like a really amazing project in life.
Here's what a lobby would look like.
There you go.
Let me.
That's magic. There you go.
That's what the lobby's going to look like.
That's representative of a Tempo, but yeah, the style is
that's right.
is representative of the overall style.
And they really need that, because that lobby, they reconfigured it probably 10 times since I've worked there, and it was always bad. I mean, and again, no disrespect to anyone. It was built wrong. So then the designers and the brands, they had to try to fix it, and it just never felt comfortable. That looks a lot more comfortable. But that stage, that sounds crazy.
Crazy. Let's go upstairs. So we got that.
You just want to snap your fingers. That's all you want to do. So how many rooms is it going to be now? How many rooms is it going to be?
It's about 630 keys. And again, this developer, we can talk for a long time about this one project. We won't today, but I mean, they're doing so many cool things. So the floating stage, hotels, 50, Anthony, you said 55 stories or something like that. The way they're building the building is one complete facade. This facade that faces Times Square can transfer into a full-size LED screen. So they'll actually be able to take imagery on the side of a building. 54, it'll be like the hugest, signage, public signage that's in Times Square, and be able to do all kinds of. It's going to be an amazing project.
It's kind of like Resorts World in Vegas. The whole friggin' hotel is one big.
There you go. There you go.
Is one big. But listen, I am fascinated by that project. I cannot wait to go to that project. I had the best moments in that hotel, and I had the worst moments in that hotel. We had unfortunately a problem with a guest that wound up in a fatality, but it was so anytime I look at that building, I think of that, and it really kind of shaped my life in the hotel business, because I understand how important security is and safety of guests are. And it was really something that shaped me as a young general manager, and so I can't wait to see it.
Michael, this is on the north side of Times Square, 47th Street.
Right in there.
It's 47. It's 47th Street.
Okay. Right across from the tickets booth. It's right.
Right. It's right near the Palace. It used to be the Palace Theater. It's probably going to be the Palace Theater. But I remember that because when we took over, Marla Maples was actually making her debut in Tommy Toon's whatever off-Broadway play she was in. But yeah, that was really my first New York City hotel, and I learned about New Year's Eve in Times Square because I was the night manager. We had rules because I'm a rule guy, right? So we had all kinds of rules, and all of a sudden, the ball comes down, and everybody comes back into the hotel, and they go, "Okay, we're going to do this in an order." I was on the desk. I was literally with a bullhorn and the radio, and I'm on the desk because I'm anticipating this. And they're like, "Okay, we need to step outside. We need to make an orderly line." And they all looked at me and laughed at me. They literally laughed at me. They knocked over the table. I fell over, and I just walked into Times Square and go, "Okay, I learned my lesson." And but I also learned in the Times Square on New Year's Eve that by 2:00 in the morning, the entire place is empty and it's clean.
That's amazing how they do, right? So all Tempos will not be Times Square with 640 rooms. I will be in St. Louis and San Diego and Cincinnati and Tampa and Orlando.
Well, that's a good place to start, man.
It'll be a flagship for us for sure in lots.
What do you think is the typical average side of a Tempo and the average size of a Motto?
So they both actually are kind of close. I mean, Glen Air's smallest Motto will be in South America, Sao Paulo. And it's probably 70-ish rooms or so, but an average is kind of 150, and most of the first Tempos are kind of in that 200 range, kind of sweet spot.
Right.
So plus or minus 2.
So you guys had an incredible launch with True, and the only reason why I bring that up, I know it's not your division, they just hit 200 hotels. Congratulations to them. I think that was a record time, definitely for Hilton, maybe for the whole industry as well, going from 0 to 200. How are the developers feeling about Motto, Tempo, Canopy, all of those kind of things? What are they feeling? What's the vibe out there?
Yeah, no, it's really good. And Glenn, thanks for mentioning. Sure, I was fortunate to have an opportunity to kind of lead the team that brought that thing to life, and it was a lot of fun. And I think in its segment, it's almost a lifestyle brand. I mean, if you have an opportunity to kind of see and look the feel and the vibe and the color and all that kind of stuff,
so it's definitely a lifestyle brand.
Yeah, right? So it's not just a category. It's broad thinking. Surprisingly, Glenn, development interest is good. I mean, Canopy is our oldest, and it's 7 years old, not old, our oldest brand. We have over 30 of those hotels now. And because of its upscale position, we've got a few more hotels to open this year. London and Chicago and Madrid. I mean, that we're just churning those out. So that one, from a cost per key perspective, we're probably going to see a little bit more of a pause just because of the investment required. So it's not slowed down. I mean, we've actually approved a few this year, but it's slowed down a little bit. Tempo in development interest is incredibly strong. We've got what we call kind of a preview center in Chicago, south of the airport, where we have model rooms and conversations about some of our partners and that kind of stuff. And so almost weekly, we take franchisees through that space. And interest is really strong because, again, in that kind of elevated select service space, 180-ish per key, and lifestyle, there's something to the mystique. And I think there's some longevity to lifestyle too. So again, I'm not sure we all agree on that, if that label's right or not, but this kind of prototypical space, rooftop space, et cetera. I think for the past year or so, that the importance of connections and small and being around people and memories over stuff, all that kind of stuff, right? That certainly can occur at any hotel. But if you think about the uniqueness of a lifestyle, kind of linking into local community, rooftops, cool food and beverage, that lifestyle is going to not go away. It's going to actually, I think, continue to grow. So we have a lot of owners who are saying that's a really good place to be. So interest is actually, I hate to say stronger than I would have expected during the year, but positive.
But really, again, I agree with you with the word lifestyle. It's like everything's going to lifestyle, and because people want to live the way they travel and the way they relax. So if you look at a truck driver that's on the road, 50 weeks a year, right, and he's an extended stay brand, he has a lifestyle. That's his lifestyle, and why should it be as cool? Why can't extended stay or a brand and a truck driver or someone that's on the road all the time, why can't they have an environment that's just cool? I guess that's why I have always a problem with lifestyle brand, because lifestyle is like, you're the cool kids. Like, everybody should feel cool.
Yeah.
Even Glenn, believe it or not, is cool.
Oh, yeah. But it's being recorded.
But Anthony, let's kind of build on what you just said. I mean, part of it is the coolness. Part of it is too, I think, the fundamentals. As we think about motto, one of the things that we were trying to get to with small rooms, et cetera, and urban core is how do we think about home sharing and other things as a potential space for us to think about. So we thought about something with motto and early on, very simple, linking or connecting rooms, right? We're going to build a hotel that at least 30 or 40% of the rooms connect one with the other. And
now you guarantee you can get those rooms.
Yes. You can link together. So you can link a living room to a bedroom to a whatever. And I'm saying that's pretty cool. And Glenn, to your point, we just rolled out a few less than a month ago, kind of interconnecting rooms across the entire portfolio. We've got over 1,000 hotels participating. So now hotel guests can know that they can guarantee a connecting room. Well, you could say that's not lifestyle, but it kind of is, right? It's lifestyle for the style of my life. I'm traveling with my kids or family, and I want to kind of be able to go back and forth, right? So I think lifestyle is the cool stuff. It's also the basic stuff, right?
But isn't it the stuff? Isn't it the hotel? Like, I think we should just say lifestyle is the hotel business, period. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to take your home and we're trying to move it to where you are tonight. Because I always say hotels aren't hotels. They're your home. When you're in a hotel, you do everything you do in your home. So basically, you're taking your lifestyle and you're bringing it to the hotel. Now, you want the best part of your lifestyle, right? You don't want, picking up crap for your dog and your kids screaming. But you want the fun part of your lifestyle. But that's why I've always had that problem. Maybe because when I was coming up in this industry, I would go to an Ian Schrager hotel for a GM role. And like, oh, you're perfect. You have all the experience. And all of a sudden, I didn't get a call. And what I would hear from the headhunter is like, well, you don't have lifestyle. And that would just drive me nuts. In the beginning of my career, I didn't have a European accent. So I had a Brooklyn accent. That was a problem. Then I wasn't cool enough. So that's always bothered me, that we take a guest and say that guest wants a cool hotel, and this guy who's a truck driver or a mail carrier, whatever he is, he just needs a regular hotel. And so it always drove me nuts. But I love the fact that now your brand, Hilton, is really kind of incorporating that throughout the entire hotel brand. It's not just the lifestyle. Like, you feel that in every one of your brands. You feel different. It's not this cookie cutter kind of brand anymore.
Right. Every brand can be cool in a different way. I mean, with Hampton, as we kind of restart hot breakfast within that brand,
Yep.
One of the signature items for breakfast is going to be chicken and waffles, right? There's some point where chicken and waffles would have been like, you know.
Wait, hold on. When are these chicken and waffles coming?
They've started now in some hotels. The rollout kind of activated in mid-July. So coming to a Hampton near you between now and the end.
Wow. I hope, Anthony, I was saying before we went on air to Phil, I'm staying at a Hampton next Thursday and Friday night. Now I'm hoping chicken and waffles will be there. This is exciting.
But see, there you go. I mean, Anthony's 2 point. Chicken and waffles at a Hampton, and then I can go to the Canopy, which is home, but I can get my fancy drink with 4 garnishes and a special glass that glows in the dark or whatever, right? And that works for me there. So it's got to be everywhere.
Right. Well, Glenn wants chicken and waffles and a fancy glass, so.
But it's all right. I bring my fancy glass with me.
So you know, one of the great things I'd love, and so thank you so much, you know, in honoring us and taking the time to be on this show, and that's why the show's so great, because of people like you. What are you seeing? And I ask this question quite a lot, but it's really important, especially with someone that's come from being a busboy to being a global brand leader. If you're a young manager coming into the industry, what is the thing that is different today than it was when you and I were coming up in the industry? What's the one philosophy that you would want to give someone?
Wow. I mean, I could do a million. I think it's kind of recognizing and embracing the speed of change, right? I mean, if we just think through the past 2 years, right. None of us, all of us who've been around for a long time, you could have never expected that we would end up going through what we went through, right? Mm-hmm. And now how do we think about coming out the other side, better, different, smarter, whatever, right? And so again, I think within our industry, and again, my biased point of view, sometimes we get very focused on only what happens within our industry. So I think my advice would be kind of staying relevant and recognizing that you got to have a foot in today and 2 feet in tomorrow, right? Because things change so quickly, and unless you can evolve with them, just think about the dynamics in our industry with revenue management and third-party websites and changes in service models and consumer expectations and right? If you can't kind of juggle a whole bunch of stuff at one time and try to land the right stuff, wow.
You really thought 35 years ago, would you be in that really cool shirt with that really cool painting? with a suit and tie with some kind of like old type, factory painting. And it was a different time and change, and people like us, we change, all of us. The 3 of us, we've all changed with the industry, and we enjoy it, and we enjoy the young people coming in, and we enjoy all of the craziness. Because I was going to say it yesterday, and I decided not to say it, but I'll say it today. If you take any profession and you say, okay, what profession has most people with OCD and ADD? And I would say the hospitality industry, because we like that change. We like constant movement, and we need it. So we love it. So that's what I'm actually having breakfast with somebody tomorrow, a young man, and that's going to be my philosophy to him, is embrace the change. Like, be in quicksand, because you're always in quicksand in this business.
No, there's technology. There's so many things that change. I mean, that's one of the things I most enjoy. I know each of us on this podcast are kind of at different places and stages in their career, but one of the things I love the most is working with the young men and women who are the leaders of tomorrow that we have an opportunity to work with, right? So, I mean, if there was a second piece of wisdom from an old guy embracing change, right? But one would be, if you're younger in your career and you have an opportunity to kind of latch into somebody who's been around for a while, it's a really interesting combination to kind of think about the speed of change, but to have a chance to kind of chat with somebody who's has some context and experience and kind of the core fundamentals. There's some cool stuff that can come out. That's one of the things I most enjoy about working with my team.
Right. I look at it like a butcher, right? You got to cut all the fat off, and I know how to cut that fat off quicker than you do. So just watch me, and then you can go and do it the way you want to do it. But like,
I'm still here on this show, Anthony.
So. But it's a podcast. At one point, it would have been like some written form or something, right? And you're on the cutting edge, Glenn. You guys are on the cutting edge.
Glenn, you are the show, Glenn.
Whatever. Hey, Phil, listen. I know it's not under you, but I do want to say congratulations. You guys just opened the first Signia by Hilton down in Orlando. Creek area, right?
Yeah. Just about a week ago. It's going to be it's a great hotel. Those hotels, those big convention cool hotels, They're going to take a little bit to come back. We've got one under construction in Atlanta. It's a great showcase, Signia, with cool water park. I mean, if you're going to have a meeting, that is the place to be for fun. See, it's a lifestyle meeting hotel, right? Because it's got cool pool features and all kind of stuff.
Right.
So,
Every hotel is a lifestyle. So let me ask you a question. What is the secret sauce in coming up with names of these brands?
oh, wow. Alcohol and yoga. I go back to
I got your answer for everything.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's interesting that the past few we've done, so like Motto, Tempo, Home to, True, right? I think forever we were stuck in the in and suites, or the something in, or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of trying to stay relevant. It's
Do you hire a company? Do you hire a company, or you all put your or you all kind of work together with a company, or you just say, hey, company, give us 10 names and we'll pick one?
No, with True, actually, I had to keep going back to as an example. We actually did a branding company, and they kind of kept coming up with names that just didn't really resonate. So we kind of crowdsourced, and then we were just sitting around one night and said, we know that this brand is really about true value, true convenience, true whatever. True. And we couldn't trademark TRUE. It was too literal. It couldn't move. Right. So TRU we could trademark. So
and I love that. Now, was that within 20 minutes of your yoga or 20 minutes of your drinking?
Maybe both.
Yeah, he was doing a cocktail pose.
There you go. The lifestyle guy, right? I mean, the lifestyle guy, right? So
yeah. So when you're thinking of these names, and the company thinks of names, it's interesting because you also have to think now about the internet and how people are going to find it. So there's a lot of variables that you have to consider, because you don't want to have a word that's too common necessarily, because if you put that in, then it could come up with 1,000 other things and you can't break through the internet, right?
It's got to be trademarkable. It's got to resonate with the customer. It has to have potentially global relevance, right? You can't come up with a name that's offensive in another language. So that believe it or not, in all the brands we've launched, that's probably one of the hardest parts of the journey, is kind of coming up with a name. So
right.
I love that name, and I love the fact that how quickly that brand became, went from 0 to 200. It was crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of like Home too, right? I shouldn't say this, but that we kind of pulled together the team that launched that, 10 years ago. It's another, 500 hotels, amazing story. So again, we went out with an agency and kind of talked about it. And then we were kind of sitting around. This time it was over coffee, not over a beverage, but we're kind of talking about the features, has a small kitchen, comfortable. You can sit on your sofa and watch TV, all that stuff. Oh, it's kind of like being at home. It's kind of like being at home too. Home too. There you
go. Any creative ideas I've ever had, that's when it comes. It always comes when it's like we talk it through, and then you're like, oh, because what happens is we try to make it more difficult than it is.
Right.
When you're saying those things and you're like, and you keep repeating it, you're like, oh my God, it's right in front of us. And that's, and then again, you hire a company. So when a company gets hired, they're making all this money. So now they feel they got to come up with something so big and so different and so creative. They got to justify their expense. And usually it's homegrown. And a lot of these brands, that's what I love about talking to people who've been in these brands for a long time. You get the real story. It's like you really get, think about when you were retired and you're sitting on your couch and people coming to kiss the ring, and you're like, you have so many stories. You can write 7 books.
So I will this is another thought, and then we can move on. Hampton's name. So back way when Hampton started, right? That was another thing. It's part of Holiday Inn. What's the name going to be, et cetera. So there was a branding and identity firm hired, and actually the name that they had landed on was a Conotel, right? Like a Conotel.
It just rolls up.
That just didn't work, right? Economy Hotel, Econo Hotel. So we ended up, through a magazine look, coming up with Hampton. So see, do you think we'd still be talking about a Conotel 35?
How'd you come up with Hampton? Where'd you come up with Hampton?
It was from a magazine ad. Actually, the wife of our president at that time was flipping through an architecture magazine and saw it was a bar or a lounge or a pub or something in the New England part of the U.S. Hampton. Oh, Hampton, kind of cool. So, see, there you go.
Wow, that's great. That's crazy.
That's awesome. So Phil, before we wrap up today, any final thoughts? Anything that you're looking forward to in the future?
This is an exciting time to be in our industry, right? I mean, I know it's frustrating because we've had an incredible slog over these past 18 months, right? And there's a lot that we're going to have to be doing differently and thinking differently. So it's been tough, but I think we should feel optimistic. Yes, we all have challenges with labor. I mean, we could spend 2 hours, as some of your guests have talked, right, about all the challenges facing our industry. And there's a bunch of those that are new that we've never faced before, right? But I think if we can kind of go into this period, travel's coming back, right? Travel is kind of there's such pent-up demand. I think more than ever, people are kind of in the mindset that they want to get out and explore. So travel's going to come back, and it's going to be as successful as it was before. We just have to be willing to kind of think differently about what we do and how we do it. Right. So although it's frustrating, I think it's an exciting time to be in our industry if you keep your ears and eyes open.
You are thinking differently. And one of the things that the company rolled out is no daily housekeeping in particular at particular brands and stuff like that. I'm all for it. I know the operators are all for it. How do you all feel that it's going over there?
I mean, this one's going to be kind of clunky. I mean, right. In theory, it's always been daily housekeeping, right? A guest could say, I don't want it. They could hang out their do not disturb sign. It's still free. We're not charging for it. Right. So in reality, it's kind of a variation on theme. We're just being a little bit more vocal in how we talk to guests about it. Right. So that's, as we were talking earlier about kind of making decisions that benefit owners, that kind of align with guest needs. That's one that, we kind of needed to make from an ownership perspective. But giving guests choice and control, and there's been some noise around it. Early on, it's a change, and guests just have to kind of get accustomed to that change. We got to figure out
there's always noise about change. No matter what
there is, right? So and it's reminding there's some things we can do differently to fine tune and make it better. But there's noise, right? And we just have to kind of have the perseverance to stick through it and see. We can always course correct down the road if it was disastrous, but.
It's good.
Yes.
I think more consumers want it. It's just consumers don't like the idea of something not being there that they've always had, even though they probably didn't want it in the first place, like me and my social group when I'm traveling on the road. Anthony?
Do you mean they didn't always charge for luggage? luggage used to be free. When was that? I don't remember that. But it's you said something that's interesting. You said we don't charge for it. It's free, but we just don't, it's not. If you ask for it, we'll give it to you. So that's interesting. So I don't mean to put you in a corner, but do you see brands potentially charging for housekeeping services?
I don't know. I think as hoteliers, we have to kind of walk the fine line. As we think about, and you've heard Aaron, Chris, and others talk about this. Let's think broadly about Airbnb, right? They're kind of in the accommodations business. We have always prided ourselves in the fact that we're in the hospitality business and we take care of customers, right? So at the same time, we try to take steps like upon request housekeeping only. I think as an industry, we got to be really mindful of how far we go with like the charge model, because the more of that we do, the more we kind of might transition from hospitality back to just kind of accommodations. Yeah. And then it gets to be kind of sticky.
Yeah, and it's interesting because with luggage, when you charge for luggage, okay, you're charging to handle my luggage. I don't like it, but I understand it. When we started the resorts fee, and I was one of the first people to start it in Florida 20 years ago, we started the resorts fee, and we were very mindful of what you got in the resort fee. So we gave you extra. And I think we did a really good job of doing that. But a lot of hotels just slap that resort fee on. And matter of fact, I was talking to someone that was getting their master's degree, and their paper was based on resort fees. And one of the things that this brand still did, they still charge for free local phone calls on the resort, free 1-800 calls, like all these things that like
the newspaper.
Yeah,
there you go.
We're still in the legalese. Newspapers, like we don't do newspapers anymore. So I think we really did a bad job as an industry because we took this resort fee and we just threw a lot of stuff against it, and people got pissed off about it. I think whatever model we bring in, we've just got to make it make sense. Again, when you look at the card in the bathroom and it says, we want to save the earth, right? So please, if you want to use your towels, just hang them up and we won't wash them. Now, again, you can say we all want to save the earth, but we all know that was also, we have to save expenses, right? But the guest understood that. So that was never a pushback. It gave me a choice. I will or I won't get my towels cleaned, right? Just FYI, I always get my towels cleaned. I don't know why, but I should be more mindful. But my point being is we just got to do it in a very mindful, thoughtful way so the guest understands it. I don't know if the hotel business, we always think that. Sometimes we try to shove things down guests' throat, and then we have to recoil and we have to change course.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good. It's all about hospitality. You guys know that. I mean, you do an amazing job every day during your show of showcasing some of hospitality's kind of best and kind of topics that are incredibly relevant. So it's hospitality, right? It's cool. Really, it's art and science.
You've earned yourself a good shameless plug here before we wrap up. What do you want to tell people all about Hilton, yourself?
Are we going to see you next week in California?
There'll be a Hilton team there for sure. Yeah, about myself, it's everybody on the call, right? It's all about hospitality. It's about openness to change. It's a fun industry to be in. It's a challenging time, but so much good stuff ahead of us, right? We just got to learn and embrace and move on. And it's good. Life is good, right? I'm so glad I'm in the hotel business versus being in the funeral director, right? I mean, I'm sure funeral directors are fun, right? No offense. I think hospitality is right.
One of the things in talking to you now a few times is that you take your job seriously, but you don't take yourself seriously. That's right. And if there's anything that we can really kind of bring to the younger generation is, I wish I would have known that because I took myself too seriously. Take your job very seriously. Be the best in your field. Try to be the best in your competition. Steal share. Do everything you can to stand out. But don't take yourself too seriously. Do yoga and have a drink once in a while.
There you go. Absolutely.
or as we like to do here, both simultaneously.
All right. We'll look for that.
Goat yoga. Let's go do goat yoga.
Phil Cordell, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And always enjoy the time with you, gentlemen. You're the best. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
What's so funny? I have the same exact shirt that he was wearing. I almost put it on today. So that would have been funny. I love that. I love that guy. And now I got the behind the stories of the old DoubleTree Embassy Suites. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, I've got the Friday Night Audit Show at 5:00 with our biggest guest to date. Believe it or not, Jim Alderman, the CEO of Radisson Americas, is going to come on, drink some tequila with us, tell some stories. Listen, man. I've made mention to them a number of times. He's worked really hard for decades to get to this position. Does he really want to throw it away tomorrow night? But
that's why I haven't showed up yet, because I'm not ready to throw my career away.
I know. Exactly. But I figure I don't have one to begin with anyway. What the hell's the difference? Join us tomorrow night, Friday night at 5:00, right on the channels that you're watching now. And if you guys really like watching us, well, you're going to love listening to our show. Download the audio podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google, wherever you like to get them. That's where they are. That's why both our feeds, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn and No Vacancy Live, are in the top 1/2% of all podcasts globally. If you want to reach out to Anthony, he's at Anthony Hotels. I, of course, am at Traveling Glenn. Any final words?
Another great episode. Now, what number episode is this? Are we over 300?
This is 376 for Checking In with Anthony and Glenn and 486 for the No Vacancy feed. So we got a 500th episode coming up in just a couple of
Wow, that's fantastic. We've done 300 and how many?
76.
We've done 376. And you know what's so interesting? I still love it. And it's never felt like I've never worked. Like this has never been a job ever.
I know.
And that says a lot about you because you do a lot of heavy lifting, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Well, that's big thanks to producer Suzanne and producer Dave, the real backbones of all this. And I want to thank intern Gwyneth and all the others that help us make this show happen behind the scenes every single day.
Yes, thank you.
Anthony, I'm excited. We're going to be doing the 500th show. We're going to be doing the 400th show of this before you know it. This is super, super exciting. I know it does seem like yesterday since number 1, but I don't even know what number we started at because the No Vacancy podcast has been around since June of 2016. So we've been at it for a little while.
You know what we need to do? We need to go back to the Garden City Hotel in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
We got to get back into our mojo. We really enjoy doing that.
I really do. We got to reach out to them. All right. I'll do that after we get off this. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, tomorrow night's Friday Night Audit. Next week, we are live in Los Angeles. Monday, we got the CEO of IHG Americas on the show. Oh, my God. On Tuesday, Anthony, Tuesday is probably the best show ever because we've got Adam Burke back from LA Tourism, and he has the audacity to think that their bagels are better than ours. Well, we're going to taste them on air on Tuesday and find out. And then
so we should bring our best bagel then. We should bring a New York bagel.
Unfortunately, it'll be a couple of days old by then. It won't be the same type of thing. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to make that work. So we'll see. Maybe someone can email one over. And then on Wednesday, we got the franchising team from Sonesta on to talk about how they're rolling out their whole franchise program and why it's going to be a big deal. Man, what a great
Dude, I got to tell you something.
Hilton's going to be there. See you next week, brother. Can't wait.
Hey, Alan. Look forward to seeing you. Hey, I just got to tell you, man.
Yep.
Programming all these guests is exhausting for me. Like, I spent all day long trying to get these guests on the show. I can't take it anymore, Glenn. You got to help me out.
I know. All right, Anthony. I will retroactively take that away from you. Boom. You've never had to worry about a day of the
Thank
show.
you, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all tomorrow if you watch Friday Night Out or next week from LA. Any lessons